Pay close attention. What you're about to see is Bible prophecy being fulfilled.
Welcome to another edition of YPN News, bringing you the news that relates to Bible prophecy and foretold by Yeshua Hawkins. Well, in the news today, some are digging out while others are bailing out. Flooding, earthquakes, and fires in different parts of the world. We'll have those stories along with a recent batch of heroin with a very nasty ingredient, of course, leading to the overdosing. And countries are beginning to warn their people that they need to start stockpiling food and water. It makes you wonder, Katan, if they're getting ready for war or some major catastrophe.
Yes, we'll see.
Well, the school year has begun and fall is just around the corner, and the cases of Zika in South Florida continue to multiply. There have been 7 new travel-related cases of Zika reported recently, and the number of locally transmitted cases being spread by Florida mosquitoes has now reached 37. Yet another concern, the state is investigating a possible third active transmission zone.
That's right. 9 of the confirmed locally transmitted cases involve people who were not bitten by mosquitoes in the 2 previously identified zones. Authorities are looking at the popular Brickell neighborhood just south of Miami's downtown as a potential third Zika zone. Brickell's skyline is densely packed with condos, skyscrapers, restaurants, as well as shops and a convention center. It is considered the city's financial district.
The artsy Wynwood district, known for its brightly painted walls and buildings north of downtown Miami, was the first identified Zika zone. Now, Florida has been able to clear the threat from 3 small pockets within that square mile, and there have not been any new infections there in weeks. But on August 19th, the state announced Miami Beach as the second active transmission zone. Now, this 20-block stretch includes tourist attractions like world-famous South Beach hotels, restaurants, and nightclubs. At Catan, just to give you an idea, in 2015, 15 million tourists spent about $24 billion there.
Wow. Well, due to increasing risk, the CDC is cautioning all pregnant women to avoid the entire Miami-Dade County for the duration of their pregnancies. Schools, however, did welcome back students, including 9 schools situated inside the 2 Zika zones. August temperatures in Miami, while hot, didn't deter students, school children from wearing long sleeves, long pants, and jackets, not to mention plenty of mosquito spray.
I bet. Well, on opening day, Florida's Governor Rick Scott visited one of the schools in the transmission zone. He called on Congress for help, saying, "This is an international issue. It's not just a Florida issue. We're at the tip of the spear because of our location, because of the number of people that travel to our state."
That's right. But Democrats and Republicans have not yet come to an agreement on the final price tag for the Zika bill, so Congress hasn't given the president anything to sign. But regardless, the public is being told they are the front line of defense for the war on Zika and strongly encourage people to remove standing water from around their homes, which is a breeding ground for mosquitoes.
Now, Zika is also being fought from the air. Health authorities have been spraying pesticides from airplanes to kill mosquitoes, but there's concern that the chemical being sprayed may be equally as harmful to unborn babies. Naled is the chemical that's raising questions and even protests in some places. But what exactly is it? Well, essentially it's a neurotoxin which can cause neurodevelopmental issues, particularly in unborn children.
Oh, that's scary. The European Union has banned the use of the insecticide, and in Puerto Rico, where Zika has been rampant, people have demonstrated against Naled, and in fact, San Juan's mayor filed a lawsuit against the Centers for Disease Control to prevent spraying there. The lawsuit claims there have been recent findings linking the presence of organophosphates and behavior problems in babies whose mothers were exposed to this type of chemical during their pregnancy.
However, the CDC and the Environmental Protection Agency maintain that Naled is safe and the best option for killing mosquitoes. Now, the CDC points out the decades-long use of Naled in the United States, and they explain that the concentration being used is about 2 tablespoons of chemical over an area roughly the size of a football field. The CDC has said, quote, "This small amount does not pose a health risk to people."
Well, experts point out there are dozens of studies showing when pregnant women are exposed to Naled, their children are more likely to develop behavior problems. And Jeff, either way you look at it, it sounds like a risky situation. Birth defects caused by Zika or behavioral problems caused by Naled.
Well, this next story has many people outraged. It's a life-saving drug for those with potentially deadly allergies. 43 million Americans keep an EpiPen close at hand in case of an allergic reaction. So what's the problem? Well, the price for an EpiPen 2-pack has gone from $100 in 2008 up to $600 today. Wow. And to make matters worse, Catan, the pens must be replaced after a year.
Well, that's a lot of money. Well, because of the price hike, Congress is asking for the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, to investigate. Senator Amy Klobuchar, a Democrat from Minnesota, told NBC News, "I consider it gouging because what happened here is they now control, by some estimates, 85% of this market."
Wow, so they can bring that price up and they know they got it.
That's right.
Well, Mylan Pharmaceuticals is the maker of the EpiPen. They also commented to NBC News telling them the price change, quote, "better reflects important product features and the value the product provides." Well, Mylan offers coupons to its customers who have high insurance deductibles, which don't cover the price of the drug.
But, Jeff, the company won't give a comment, of course, when it comes to executive compensation. With 400% rise in EpiPen prices, top executives at Mylan received a 600% jump. That's right, 600% jump in their compensation.
Well, there is, however, a cheaper alternative. Dr. John Torres, NBC News medical contributor, said the medicine itself is not the expensive part. It's cheap. It's the auto-injector part of the EpiPen that's expensive. And he said you can learn to do it yourself with a syringe, but you have to know how to do it correctly.
Yeah, so basically people are paying for that convenience of
That's
the
right.
injection. Well, central Italy is digging out once again. This time, the devastation was caused by a 6.2 magnitude earthquake. The death toll stands at 267 as rescuers continue to search for any survivors. Italy's Civil Protection Department says nearly 400 other people remain in hospital, with around 40 said to be in critical condition.
Now, the quake's epicenter was 6.2 miles under the central Apennines Mountains, which were formed by colliding tectonic plates along geological fault lines. Italy is also highly prone to damage due to the age and the fragility of its historic buildings.
This year, nothing new for Italy. Within the past 10 years, 2 other earthquakes at or above a magnitude 6 have struck the region. In 2012, a magnitude 6.1 earthquake in northern Italy killed 7. In 2009, a magnitude 6.3 earthquake in central Italy killed 295 and caused $2.5 billion in damages.
Well, so far, at least one powerful aftershock, along with more than 1,000 smaller shocks, have struck the region, hindering rescue efforts. Some key roads are still impassable, and survivors are having to set up makeshift camps to survive. Now, Italy's government has promised more than $50 million to help rebuild, but despite the aid, there are concerns that some of the hardest hit towns and villages may never recover. And that's what they actually said about those previous earthquakes. Some of them, even 7 years ago, are still, roughly the same. I mean, they've rebuilt a little, but a lot of it, you can still see the scarring that has taken place.
Well, that's sad. Many of the buildings in these areas have not been updated to seismic standards. Many are just too old. Italy's prime minister has stated that it would be impossible to bring all of the ancient buildings in the country up to seismic code. In the general atmosphere of locals is fear, and some can't imagine staying, while others have vowed to rebuild.
Well, of course, the world is experiencing a remarkable increase in not just earthquakes, but environmental disasters as a whole. Larry McGee picks up for us on several other natural disasters, as well as a number of other interesting stories ranging from the drug addiction that we mentioned in the beginning to the Euros. Larry, what do you have for us?
Abnormal water conditions are still plaguing the country, and the language being used to describe them now is record-breaking and historic. The latest round of floods, which struck the southern state of Louisiana, is reported to have taken the lives of at least 13 people and caused damage to tens of thousands of homes. The state's National Guard has been mobilized to provide temporary assistance to those citizens in need of supplies and are said to have distributed 4,000 meals and 7,000 bottles of water to flood victims. Residents report severe hardship locating water in the stores, and citizens of the area applying for federal assistance has now soared to over 100,000. The state's guard is also said to be providing emotional support for citizens who are broken with desperation, and the president is scheduled to visit soon to assess the damage and offer condolences. These days, if it isn't the water, then it's the air. In Indiana, tornadoes ravaged the city of Kokomo. Residents describe being huddled together in one establishment while watching violent winds completely destroy and collapse another. In all, as many as 15 tornadoes are reported to have battered the state, producing massive property damage and many shattered lives. The element of fire is also involved in the melee as well, as 6 large wildfires raged throughout California this week, commanding the attention of over 10,000 firefighters. Just east of Los Angeles, officials struggled to get a handle on a blaze that destroyed at least 300 buildings, 105 of which were reported to be single-family residences. Victims of the fire report their feelings of helplessness regarding the tragedy, and the damage assessment teams expect that the numbers related to the destruction will only climb. The destruction in the Euphrates region is still a matter of international concern as well. This week, the Russian flank of the quartet is calling on the UN to not draw hasty conclusions on the use of chemical weapons in Syria. This follows the establishment of an investigative team set up by the UN to look into alleged chemical attacks in the country. The big controversy continues to be who exactly is carrying out the attacks. The position of the West is that they are primarily the work of Damascus, while the Syrian government attributes the attacks to mercenaries. Amid it all, area doctors are calling August the deadliest month for the city of Aleppo, Syria's largest city, and an area of intense fighting between many different factions. On the question of chemical culpability, former CIA and State Department official Larry Johnson says that the Syrian government had a binary chemical weapon, but those weapons were collected and disposed of with the assistance of Russia, so those weapons have been taken off the battlefield. What the West does not want to acknowledge, he said, is the fact that we have enabled and in some cases directly supported groups in Syria which have carried out these chemical attacks and have used chlorine and other chemicals such as mustard gas as a pretext to put the onus or burden of it on the government of Bashar al-Assad. But in fact, the real culprits, the one who represent the real danger, he stated, and the international intelligence community knows this, are the rebels. There is danger lurking in many other places as well, as officials in several different states in the U.S. are said to be groping for answers to a recent surge in heroin overdoses. Authorities suspect that the cause are dealers who have begun lacing their products with an elephant tranquilizer. In all, 128 people are reported to have died in the latest surge, with 88 people alone overdosing in Ohio in a week. And in West Virginia, 27 people are reported to have overdosed in just 4 hours. Officials are reportedly receiving call volumes similar to that experienced during mass casualty events, and some people even took to social media trying to warn any would-be users of the danger. Medical experts say the problem is that people are switching back and forth between different opioids. If a person is trying pain pills, they say, and they can no longer get those, then they may switch to heroin. Iran and South Korea have agreed to switch their transactions to the euro to bypass U.S. sanctions and circumvent the petrodollar. Iran's deputy foreign minister gave a statement adding that other nations can also use euro for easier trade with Iranians. In July of last year, a nuclear arrangement between the P5 and Tehran resulted in the lifting of international sanctions on Iran. But despite that, the U.S. has continued its sanctions to prevent Iranian access to the U.S. dollar. For YPN News, I'm Larry McGee. Katan Jeff, back to you.
Interesting. I guess we'll see how this affects the global economy in regards to Tehran actually using the euro. Well, the UN reports that nearly 500,000 children in Chad, or Lake Chad, are suffering from malnutrition. Adrian Edwards, spokesman for UNHCR, said many of the displaced, from women, the children, and the elderly, they have very urgent needs, and pretty much wherever we're looking, of course, they're seeing so much devastation, so many problems. He says we've seen adults so exhausted they aren't able to move, children with swollen faces and hollow eyes, and other clear indications of acute malnutrition.
The UN has also warned that over 49,000 of those children are at immediate risk and will die this year if they do not receive treatment immediately. Now, the crisis has been blamed on severe drought and attacks by the terrorist group Boko Haram. Lake Chad borders Nigeria and Chad.
Well, children and the sufferings as a result of war, along with the pictures that accompany them and their stories, have become highly symbolic. But not all get the same attention. The image of a Syrian boy who survived an airstrike in Aleppo touched the hearts of millions and millions of people, and it gave attention from around the world to the conflicts and sufferings going on in Syria. 5-year-old Omran Daknesh is a boy who's come to symbolize the plight of the country.
Many reporters spoke about the image and even shed a tear over the look of shock that was displayed upon the face of the child, saying, "It's heartbreaking. It's almost like the boy is asking us to do something. It just gets you right here. It's so disturbing," among other comments that were made. And all of them were sympathizing with the little one's image of suffering.
That's right. But there are many other images that didn't go viral, but also show the reality of this war. About a month ago, a video was posted of an 11-year-old boy who was beheaded. Many found the footage too graphic to watch. That video wasn't as widely publicized, but it did cause outrage around the world. A week ago, Saudi Arabia bombed a school in Yemen, killing 10 children and wounding 28, and the world hardly noticed. Well, take a look at some of the other images of the suffering of children in this area. Video courtesy of RT.
Wow, certainly a terrible situation.
That's right.
Well, Germany is telling its citizens to stockpile food and water in case of a catastrophe. Now, they've said that the people should have enough for 10 days as a precautionary measure in the event of any large-scale attack. Now, the move is part of a new defense strategy that the government is thinking through. According to a leak from the German government, for the first time since the Cold War, the government is urging its citizens to prepare for a response to the threat of war.
They're saying that citizens need to stockpile 10 days worth of food, 5 days worth of drinking water and other supplies along with medicine. This is so that they can wait it out for a period of time until the government can help. They said that the population should be able to protect themselves before government measures to ensure an adequate supply of food, water, energy, and cash.
Well, the report did not specify what type of catastrophe or attack the government wanted the people to prepare for. Introducing new security measures is not new in Germany following the recent run of attacks in Europe. Now, over the past month alone, 2 of those attacks have been directly linked to Islamic extremism. Now, citizens of Berlin agree with the measures, saying, "We're living in a time where uncertainty is increasing, and for that reason, yes, the people become nervous." And I imagine the government, if they can have their people prepare, then it just lessens the burden on them in the event there is a large-scale attack. You know, at least they're hoping their people are taken care of.
Sure, but the people don't know what's going on, so it's got them kind of on
right.
edge. Some even said if the government says that you need to buy much water and food, it must be a very serious thing. Others said that they were kind of scared because they thought that there must be something going on, while others tried to be optimistic, saying fear is a subjective feeling and that there are a lot of things happening in Germany, so I guess you should keep in mind what you have in your fridge or basement. We've done that before.
Well, a bomb attack in southeastern Turkey has killed 30 and wounded many more. Now, the bomb targeted a wedding party, and the president of Turkey, Erdogan, said Daesh terrorist group is the likely perpetrator of the terror attack. Well, so far, no other group has claimed responsibility. Now, the country has been rocked by several terror attacks over the past few months, with 2 attacks occurring recently, striking the city of Van and the town of Bitlis, both in Turkey's troubled southeast part.
The bomber who struck was between age 12 and 14 years old. That's right, very young. That, according to Turkish President Erdogan, he revealed the bomber's age during a press conference on Sunday. That blast striking a wedding party injured 69 people, with 16 of those injured seriously. The funeral ceremony for those killed turned into an anti-government demonstration, with many mourners being angry with the Turkish president.
Well, in case you missed it in our last broadcast, take a look as we'll show you again the footage from the International Space Station as it was orbiting the Earth when one of its cameras on a live feed was pointed at the Earth, caught an interesting golden square-shaped object. And it's just kind of hovering there. You'll see it in a minute here. You'll see it hovering above the Earth before the footage was actually suddenly disrupted. So we'll take a look at this video. Still no answers to what that strange object might be.
But it definitely is very interesting. Well, bugs spreading viruses, earthquakes in place after place, severe weather, starvation, war, terror, death, and suffering. It seems as though mankind is reaching a breaking point and something is going to give way very soon. Many are searching for answers, but coming up empty-handed. Yeshua Hawkins has the answers you've been looking for. Contact the House of Yahweh to find out the true light at the end of the tunnel. And when you do, don't forget to request your free copies of the monthly newsletter and the Prophetic Word magazine. Here's how.
Well, to contact the House of Yahweh, you can write them at the House of Yahweh, P.O. Box 2498, Abilene, Texas 79604. You can call them at 1-800-613-9494. Visit them on any of their websites, www.yahweh.com, www.yisraelhawkins.com, or www.yahwehsbranch.com. You can also visit our website at www.ypnnews.com, and any email, you can email them at info@yahweh.com. Don't forget any international calls. You can call the number on your screen. And once again, we'd like to remind you of the Yisrael Says program that you can find and learn more about by going to www.yisraelsays.com, and you'll be very delighted on how helpful this Bible study tool is and how easy it is to search for the answers that you've been looking for many years concerning the Scriptures.
Well, don't go anywhere. Up next, the man who has the answers, Yisrael Hawkins. For all of us here at YPN News, I'm Katan Alexander.
And I'm Jeffrey Heimerman.
Thank you for watching.